Hello YouTube. Today we're going to get into Shawn Achor's book, The Happiness Advantage. This is an excellent book. It really opened my eyes regarding the power of happiness, really. So what's the core concept of this book? So in my talks, we focus on three layers of every book. We focus on the core concept, which is the top of the pyramid, the one idea that I would like you to take away from this book. Then we get into theory. The theory are the ideas that support this core concept and essentially give it life and air. And then we focus on action. 3 steps that you can take to implement change in your life. What you can do, what I can give you from this book to change in your life. Okay, so let's start. So the core concept of this book is happiness equals excellence. So people traditionally, they have this idea of happiness being the result of success. First, I'm going to work really hard, do my thing, become successful, and then I'll be happy. Where Shawn actually flips that on his head and he says, no, you need to be happy first, and that will make becoming successful easier. And millions, hundreds of studies have proven this. There were studies done regarding people in the workplace and whether they were happy or not, and it showed that people who were happier tended to be more productive, more creative, more happy. I guess that was my terrible joke. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the core concept. Happiness equals excellence. So there are 3 supporting ideas that Achor talks about, and the first is the Tetris Effect. So basically what they did, there was this Harvard study where they had these students play Tetris for hours upon hours, for days upon days. I think it was for like a week or a few days or something like that. And what they found is that the people who were forced to play Tetris, you know, Tetris, that block game, for long periods of time, they found that they actually started dreaming about Tetris, and everywhere they looked, they saw Tetris shapes. So what that essentially says, the Tetris Effect is the name after that study. What that essentially says is that our perspectives, right, can be shifted to a radical degree with some diligent training. So just like, you know, they were dreaming about Tetris and seeing Tetris shapes, you know, in between buildings and stuff, we can also bring that level of positivity to our lives, right? We can use the Tetris Effect to essentially change how we see the world, because that's how quickly our brains change. So that's the first idea. The second idea is what I call bending reality. So things such as space and time, right, in the Newtonian physics worldview, they were absolute, right? But when the Einsteinian relativity revolution happened, what they actually found was that things that you think would be super solid and absolute, such as space, time, causation, those things actually were bendable. They were flexible. So this idea of bending reality, Shawn Achor calls it the fulcrum and the lever. Depending on our mindset, we can literally change reality, change our reality by changing our mindset, by looking at the positive in life. And they actually did an experiment with, in Japan, they did an experiment with these students, and they actually rubbed, on one group, they rubbed poison ivy on their arm. And the other group, they rubbed aloe vera on their arm. But they told the poison ivy group that they were not rubbing poison ivy on their arm, they were rubbing something else. And they told the aloe vera group that they were rubbing poison ivy on their arm. So what they found is just the belief that they were being rubbed with poison ivy caused the people who weren't getting poison ivy put on their arm to break out in you know, I think a certain percentage of them broke out in red boils and scabs. Just the belief, right? They call it the placebo effect, right? Just the belief that you are healing will alter the neurochemical interactions in your body. So the mind-body connection is really strong. That's what that shows. But who's to say that it just stops there, right? Entire organizations, companies, they can be shifted using the positivity, the happiness advantage, right? So that's the second point. The third point is this idea of falling forwards or falling upwards. When life starts throwing things at you, right, you start getting overwhelmed. Normally, a lot of people buckle under the pressure, right? But the goal is to, they I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Mask of Zorro, but they have this concept called the Zorro Circle. So as Antonio Banderas in the movie gets better at mastering elements of being, Zorro, he expands this circle, right? So that's basically this idea. The Zorro Circle is when things are looking really bad, right? What can you do to counteract the chaos, the negativity that is overwhelming you, right? And the Zorro Circle essentially says is if there's a problem, break it down. Find mini goals, right? The reason most people procrastinate is because they're just overwhelmed by the the enormity of the task, right? Instead, you break that task down into mini goals, right? And say, okay, I got a lot of homework to do. So let me, for the next 10 minutes, work on this easy problem that I know I can accomplish. And then the next 10 minutes, I'll take a break. And then maybe for 20 minutes, I can go back to my homework and slowly build up from there, expand your circle. So those are the three ideas that kind of support the happiness is excellence brand. So let's go to action now. So this is the final portion of core concept coaching, is like, how can I put this stuff into my life? The first idea is brainwash yourself, essentially, right? Use positive affirmations. There are plenty of good meditations on YouTube. One is called Manifest Your Goals by Jessica Hessop. And essentially, that meditation, whenever I do it, I get so happy because I'm just imagining my goals and like imagining achieving them and getting happy and motivated to pursue my dreams, right? So brainwash yourself. Use positive affirmations, think positive, and don't stop thinking positive, and imbue your mind with that optimism, right? So optimism, very important, but we don't want to be naively optimistic. So that gets to our second idea, which is ABCD. Shawn Achor points out this 4-step formula when you are challenged by the negativity or the events of reality that you cannot control, right? So A stands for adversity, right? An event, a situation that you cannot change, a negative reality, right? We can't just brainwash ourselves to be optimists. We also have to be realists, right? We need a balance between the two. So A stands for adversity. B stands for belief, our reaction to the event that we cannot change, right? C stands for consequence. What are the consequences of our beliefs, right? How do they make us think? If your belief is a certain way, right? It will interact with your thoughts. It will interact with your thoughts. So you belief with thought, right? And your thought patterns will change depending on your core beliefs. That influences every thought you think throughout the day. And they say you think up to 60,000 thoughts a day. So your beliefs matter, right? So belief, the consequences of the belief. And if those consequences of that belief that you have of that adverse event, which is, it's probably going to be, the adversity is for A, it's probably going to be a negative belief. What can you do to dispute? That's what D stands for. Disputation of the belief. So that's the second actionable step you can take. You can use the ABCD technique, which is, you can simplify it and just say like, what's the event? What do I believe about the event? How do I feel about my beliefs? And how can I change those beliefs if I feel negative? So that's the ABCD tactic. So the next third actionable step you can take is literally plan for implementation, right? So all of these ideas are great. I can talk about happiness equaling excellence, the Zorro Circle, bending reality, the Tetris Effect. I can talk about all of this, but unless you apply it to your life, it's not going to work. So in the book Atomic Habits, James Clear says that they did this experiment, right? They took 3 groups. The first group, they were like, yo guys, you need to exercise. The second group, they were like, yo guys, you need to exercise. Here's why you need to exercise. Let me give you some literature on the benefits of health. The third group were saying, okay, you guys need to exercise. Here's why you need to exercise. Here's the scientific literature. And we would like you to make a plan for implementation, right? Essentially what they're saying is, I will do exercise X at time Y at place Z, right? So that plan for implementation increase the chances of you sticking to your habits, whatever change that is, whether you want to be happier or whether you want to run more, right? It changes that, the plan to implement changes that tactic, and it makes you essentially stick to your guns and stick to your commitments if you make a plan to implement. So that's the third point, is plan to implement your ideas. X, behavior X at time Y at place Z. So I will run tomorrow at 6 a.m. outside my house, and that is literally what I'm going to do tomorrow. So I am really working on my habits myself, and I just thought I'd share it with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this core concept video. Have a good one, guys.